Alrighty everyone, hello, it is I, Divine Iconoclast, coming at you today to review the new Behemoth album, I Loved You at Your Darkest. A bit of a background on the band Behemoth. They were originally one of the formative black metal bands in the Polish black metal scene in the early to mid 90s, and then eventually they kind of got bored with black metal, and in 1999 they released their first Blackened Death Metal album, Satanica. And from there, they've been playing Blackened Death Metal, albeit to varying degrees of black metal influence over time. They released several, super popular records. When their most popular, one of their earlier stuff, well, I guess this is more their mid-period, but you know what I'm talking about, is Demigod, which came out in 2004, which basically honestly stripped out almost all black metal influences. I think that album, the album before that one, Here and Beyond, and then the Apostasy, aren't Blackened Death Metal albums. I think all those are just straight up death metal albums. But I mean, different people say different things. The consensus is that it's all Blackened Death Metal. And then in 2009 they came back with the album Evangelion, which is my personal favorite Behemoth album. And I think they were going in a really good direction after that. However, at that time, the lead singer of the band, Nergal, I think he got leukemia? Or I don't remember. He got some kind of cancer. But yeah, he got that, and then he was out for a while. Luckily, he ended up beating it, though, so that was good. And then they came back in 2014 with their album, The Satanist, which is considered the band's magnum opus by, like, everybody. Everyone loves the album. Even Anthony Fantano gave it a 9 out of 10. And if Anthony Fantano gives a metal album a 9 out of 10, you know it's good, right? And everybody loves that album. I do too, actually. It's my second favorite Behemoth album. Or at least it was. Until I heard this thing. This new Behemoth album, I'm here to tell you, is fantastic. I am so happy with this. I was very, very afraid that Behemoth was going to come back and do kind of like a sophomore slump. I mean, it's not exactly a sophomore slump, but they wouldn't be able to follow up the excellence that is The Satanist. But they did. And in my opinion, they did it even better. Now, why is this? I think this is honestly mostly because this is the most unique and experimental Behemoth album they have ever released before in the entire band's history. There are some songs on here that have like more clean guitar tones than they do distorted guitar tones, like on the song Bartzabel. Almost that entire track is a clear guitar tone. And even if it's not entirely like clear and clean, it's not as grimy and dirty as your regular metal distorted guitar tone. It's like super, like atmospheric as well. That's one thing about this album that I also really like. An amazingly depressive and atmospheric vibe to this, almost the entire album. A lot of the songs in here have like a suicidal, depressive black metal feel. And like, I was super shocked by that. Some of the songs in here that really have that are the song Havohe, Pentocrator. I don't think I said that one right, but I don't know. And then the aforementioned song Bartzabel, those are two of the songs with like the most dreary atmospheres. Also the song Rom 58 is also one like that. And I was just super, super excited about that. It also fits completely with the theme of the album and the artwork. I Loved You at Your Darkest. The artwork is dark and deep, like deep blacks, grays, depressing. It fits overall really, really good. And I also want to credit the album artwork for like partially, contributing to the feeling that this album has. Because if it wasn't for if it had the same artwork as, let's say, Demigod, which is, it's still dark, but it's like blue and black and gray, and it just gives a bit of a different feel. Demigod's album cover more displays like destructiveness and iconoclasm, which I don't actually know if that's a word, but I'm gonna go with it, right? Earlier Behemoth stuff is more about being an iconoclast, I guess, destroying stuff, destroying religious values, destroying everything that is sacred to the church. This album is more like taking a seat back and being sad and depressed about this kind of thing. And I think that makes perfect sense for what Nergal's been through with, all of the Polish government and the church trying to censor him, get him thrown in jail, all that fun stuff, banning him from playing in his country. I know that one was a bit older. But still, it makes perfect sense. Also, he said he was very influenced by his other side project, which I believe is like a bluegrass project. I've never actually listened to it before though, called Me and That Man, and it definitely shows. Like, there are definitely just basic rock and roll or bluegrass influences on this album, which again contributes to the experimental feel. This is not the Satanist 2.0. I've seen that on many different reviews, but I wrote that down before I even saw any other reviews, so I guess I'm not alone in thinking that. The Satanist is more of a triumphant album, where, you know, he gets back and he beats the crap out of you. It's like, I'm back. This album is more like, yeah, okay, I guess we released another one. And that makes it sound kind of boring, but it's not. The depressing atmosphere this album has is the number one thing it has going for it. Along with the depressing atmosphere, the band drops almost all of their death metal influences on this album, which, again, I was very, very surprised about. I would say it's like 80-20 in favor of black metal on this album. We're on an album like Demigod, it's like 90-10 in favor of death metal, you know? I think that's one thing that this band has also really, really going for it, is that it's very easily able to switch back and forth from album to album between their black metal and death metal influences, you know? And it still sounds like Behemoth, and I think that's really, really cool. The drum work on this album as well, it's not all that impressive. If I had to levy one criticism on this album, I think it's that the drum work isn't that impressive. Infernus can definitely do better. But it's not bad. It isn't like the drums are out of time or anything. Obviously, I don't expect that. But they're fine. They're played well. They weren't as interesting as they have been on some of their previous albums. Now, I was going on and on about the depressive, dark atmosphere, and that is definitely a major part of the album. But some of the songs are more like destructive, and they want you to headbang, and they're more a callback to classic Behemoth. Songs like God Equals Dog, and another song which I think is like Ecclesiastica Diabolica Catholica. I don't know, I don't speak Latin. I don't even think that is Latin. I think it's just with Ica at the end of everything, to make it sound evil and dark and religious, you know? You know, compare and contrast that stuff, right? 'Cause that's all Behemoth's thing. The songwriting on this album is also fantastic. There are several unique twists and turns on here, unique chord progressions, you know, things that maybe, I don't know, just things on here that takes unexpected turns that you wouldn't think the songs to take. And it's also just a breath of fresh air a breath of fresh air, because it's not the entire album not trying to pummel you into the ground. Like my favorite Behemoth album, Evangelion, the entire time that album is pummeling you into the ground with fast tempos, blast beats, power chord picks, there's a lot of guitar solos on that. No, this album, even whenever it's in you know, heavy fast headbanging moods, there's still an underlying sadness to all of them. Like the song God Equals Dog, there's like passages in between each song where there's like a bit of a, maybe not a cleaner guitar tone, but they're like picking through dissonant guitar chords, all that fun stuff. Another bad thing about this album, I think, is that the album opens and closes with a pointless intro and outro track. Like, the outro track sounds cool, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's just like a 2 or 3 minute long instrumental that doesn't do anything. It's very one note, and then the intro track is just, basically it's stuff, it's like, I guess the intro track is kind of like setting up the album. Here's the thing, the intro track, it contains several elements of that you're going to see later on in different songs, like there's children's choir in the song God Equals Dog, and then in the opening song, which I believe is called Salva, which I don't know what that means, I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but on that track they introduce the children's choir there, and it actually says the exact same thing as it does on God Equals Dog. I think that's kind of cheesy. I don't like it very much. But it's not that big of a deal. If you're listening to it, you can just skip the intro and outro tracks. I always don't like it whenever bands do that. I feel like it's kind of a cheap and lazy way to start off the album. Nergal's vocals on this thing are just as good as they've always been, except he started recently doing this really weird high vocal, where it's not like, you know, like a black metal high. He just, like, yells, you know what I mean? He just, like, raises the pitch of his voice and yells. He doesn't, like, add any distortion to it, doesn't try to make it any, like grim or anything like that. He's like, ah, like that, kind of. And it's really weird, and I find it super duper funny. Thank God those aren't on this album very much. They're on here sometimes for sure, but they're by far the worst thing Nergal's ever done with his vocals before. I hope he doesn't continue to do them. I've also seen live performances where he does them, like doing like old songs, maybe like Decade of Therion. I'm like, oh, it just doesn't sound right. Just stick with your low shit for the whole time if you can't do high vocals anymore, because I don't know, you're getting older, voices wearing out maybe. The production on this album, it's basically the exact same as the Satanist. It's fantastic production. The bass is audible, the drums are nice and punchy, guitar is great, vocals, like, everything fits. The production on this is fantastic. I love it. Yeah, overall, I am extremely impressed with this album. It succeeds on nearly every single front. Everything this album is trying to do, it at least succeeds a little bit, if not incredibly. The depressing atmosphere on this thing is the #1 reason this album drew me in. And because of that, my favorite songs on here are usually the more depressive ones. This is my new second favorite Behemoth album, right under Evangelion. Yes, this is better than the Satanist. Yes, this is better than Demigod, which in my opinion is very, very overrated. I do not like Demigod that much. I mean, it's a good album. I give Demigod maybe a 7, maybe an 8 out of 10. But there's so much filler towards the back of Demigod. Anyways, this isn't about Demigod. This is about I Loved You at Your Darkest. My favorite songs on here are God Equals Dog, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, the Ecclesiastica Diabolica Catholica. That one that I can't say. Another one that I can't say, oh geez, Havo He Pantocrator. That song's my favorite one on the album. Fantastic. That's one of my all-time favorite Behemoth songs. And Rom 5/8. The only song here that's even of questionable quality is Sabbath Mater, and that's simply because it has a really, really weird chorus. I don't even know if it's a chorus, but like, I guess it kind of is a chorus. So like during the chorus, nothing just matches. I don't know. There's like a choir vocal part, but that seems like rushed, and they're switching notes too fast, and the guitars seem weird, and the drum beat is weird. Other than that, the song is fine. It's just the chorus makes me feel really weird every single time I hear it. And because of that, it's the worst song on the album. Every other song is at least an 8 out of 10 for me, and that one's maybe like a 6. Yeah, but overall, I'm going to have to give this album a 9 out of 10. Make sure to tell me why I'm wrong in the comments and why this album sucks. I legit saw a review for this album where somebody's like, oh yeah, this doesn't have the speed and intensity of previous Behemoth albums, so this one sucks. It's like, oh yeah, my bad, I forgot all you want your music to do is just go super duper fast. And how the hell did you like the Satanist then? Because the Satanist has many different slow moments on it. Or make sure to tell me why I'm wrong, because this is actually the only good Behemoth album, because I've also heard someone say that before. Or make sure to tell me that I'm right. I like that one better. Please validate my opinions, because without people validating my opinions, I mean nothing. Behemoth, I Loved You at Your Darkest, 9 out of 10. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great day.